I don't want to see you anymore. I don't want any mess in my new house, so please leave. What do you mean? I don't want to live with someone I don't like. I'm Laura, I'm 34. I was married to Paul, who's younger than me by 4 years, but that didn't bother me until recently. I met Paul at a party through my friend Lucy. Paul and Lucy went to the gym together. Paul was good-looking with a strong body and a nice smile. He was friendly and fun. I was single then, and Lucy really wanted me to meet someone. So she introduced me to all the guys at the party, including Paul. Hey Paul, meet Laura, my friend who's into books and has a lot of money. Lucy, stop it, you're embarrassing me. Don't be embarrassed, it's a compliment. I blushed and said thank you. Lucy, you could have also said smart and beautiful about me. You're right, you're smart and beautiful. Now have fun, and I'll check on the other guests. After Lucy left, Paul asked, Hey, why did Lucy call you a nerd? I smiled and said, Well, I'm an engineer, and I work for a software company. I'm busy with work most of the time, so my friends tease me and call me a nerd. Wow, that's cool. So you must make a lot of money since they call you a millionaire nerd. I burst out laughing. Yeah, you could say that. We spent the evening talking and getting to know each other. Paul was really nice and I liked him a lot. After that, we started going out for coffee and dinner. Paul even used to pick me up from work so we could spend more time together. He worked as an assistant in a small company. After a few months of dating, Paul asked me to marry him. I loved him, but I wasn't sure if it was the right time. Plus, he was younger than me, so I was worried if he was serious. Paul, are you really serious about this? Of course, we've been dating for a while now. It's only been a few months since we met, and you're 4 years younger than me. Poor chocolate. Come on, Laura. Are you still stuck on those old beliefs that say the husband should be older? It really doesn't matter to me. But I just wanted to make sure you're okay with it. Relax, Laura. You're a modern woman. You shouldn't be worrying about these silly things. Paul convinced me that we would be happy together as a married couple, so I agreed. We met each other's parents and told them about our plans. While my dad, Glenn, didn't say much and seemed happy, my mom had a private chat with me. Laura, dear, I hope you've talked about money matters with Paul. Yes, Mom, don't worry. I'm just worried that your success in your career might cause issues between you and Paul. Men can be sensitive about these things. No, Mom, Paul is really understanding. He doesn't have any ego about it. He's even agreed to help with household chores since I'm busy with work. That's good to hear. Take care, honey. This talk made me realize that I hadn't talked about finances with Paul, and he hadn't brought it up either. I never really cared about his money because I earned enough. But Paul had asked about my salary even before proposing. It bothered me for a bit, but I decided to let it go. I was excited to start married life with Paul. After the wedding, we went on our honeymoon to Florida, a gift from my company. We had a great time. Then, about a month later, after dinner, Paul sat me down and asked for a favor. Honey, I'm really sorry to bring this up, but I need your help. What's wrong, Paul? Is everything okay? Well, not really. My parents are having some trouble. They live in an apartment on the 2nd floor, and there's no elevator. It's getting hard for them to climb the stairs as they get older. I see. Why don't we move them to a ground floor house or an apartment with an elevator? He didn't seem to like that idea. Actually, Laura, I want to build them a house. I was surprised. Okay, but building a house can be really expensive, you know. Yeah, I'm aware of that. Do you have enough savings, or are you thinking of getting a loan? Paul looked down for a moment and said, Laura, I was wondering if you could lend me the money to build the house. I was shocked. This was unexpected. I didn't know what to say. Huh? What? But you make good money, so why do you need to borrow? But Paul, I'm not sure if I can lend such a big amount. Why not? Paul got a bit aggressive. I didn't know how to say no, so I just said, okay, let me think about it. I'll let you know. I spent the night wondering if it was a good idea to give Paul all my savings to build a house for his parents. I've worked so hard for this money, saving up for my own future. The next morning, as I was leaving for work, Paul hugged me and said, Laura, I'll wait for your decision. Let's talk about it this weekend. I'm running late. I wasn't feeling too good about this situation, so I talked to a colleague for advice. She suggested making an official contract with Paul to ensure he'd pay back the money. It sounded like a good plan to make sure everything was clear and Paul wouldn't back out later. When I got home, I told Paul I could lend him the money, but he'd have to pay me back in 3 years. Surprisingly, Paul agreed. I made it clear he'd need to sign official papers, and if he didn't pay me back, I could take legal action. Paul laughed when I mentioned the papers. You can't be serious. I am serious. I have the papers ready. What? He looked surprised, then said, Okay, I'll sign. He smirked and signed the papers. I transferred the money to him, but I still felt uneasy because Paul's salary wasn't enough to pay me back. After that, Paul started acting strangely. He came home late and didn't help with chores. When I complained, he said he was busy at work. My feelings for him started to fade. On weekends, he was often away, overseeing the construction of his parents' new house. Sometimes he didn't come home, saying he was staying with his parents. I started to suspect something was wrong. I can't take this anymore, Paul. You've been acting strange and living off me like a parasite in this house. What do you mean? How dare you say that? You've been living off my money since we got married. You haven't contributed financially at all. And now you don't even help with chores. He looked at me and said casually, You knew I didn't earn much, so why did you marry me? I was shocked. What? I'm not in the mood to argue with you. I'm looking forward to the housewarming party your mom's organizing at our new house tomorrow, he said, mocking me. I couldn't believe it. He didn't even tell me the house was finished, and they're having a party without inviting me. You built the house with my money, and you didn't even tell me it was done. And now your mom's throwing a party without inviting me? What the hell? I yelled. He shrugged. Oops, my bad. Come if you want, he said, and left, humming. I was so angry I wanted to break something, but I calmed down. An hour later, my mother-in-law called. Hello, I answered. Hi. I'm calling to let you know we're having a housewarming party at our new place tomorrow, she said. Okay, I replied shortly before hanging up. I was pretty sure Paul had asked her to invite me. If she genuinely wanted me there, she would have called earlier. Besides, she's never been friendly to me, not even when we first met or after the wedding. At first, I didn't want to go because of everything that had happened. But then I thought if I didn't, Paul and his mom would probably say I'm just jealous of their new house. So I decided to put on a fake smile and go for a bit. When I got there, I saw the entrance decorated with flowers, and Paul was standing with his mom, greeting guests. As I walked in, my mother-in-law said, Oh, you came. I didn't think you would. What made you think that? Paul interrupted. You're here now, so come inside. I followed Paul inside and saw my father-in-law sitting alone. He smiled genuinely when he saw me and thanked me for the money. It was the only time I felt good about lending it, because neither Paul nor his mom had shown any gratitude. Paul and his mom ignored me the whole time. I just chatted with some relatives, waiting for the party to end so I could leave. When everyone left, I said goodbye to my father-in-law. Goodbye, take care of yourself, I told him. But then my mother-in-law stepped in. You don't need to worry about my husband when you can't even take care of your own. Huh? What do you mean? You've been a terrible wife, not doing any chores and making my son do everything. What kind of wife are you? He volunteered. But you should be doing your share. I work too, so I need his help. You should be grateful he puts up with you. Instead, you abuse and torture him. What? I've never tortured or abused Paul. Don't act innocent. Paul told me how you've mentally tortured him for money and got him to sign an agreement. What kind of wife does that? My father-in-law tried to stop her. Megan, stop. Why are you being cruel instead of grateful? Sit quietly or go to your room. I couldn't believe Megan would treat Thomas like this. Then she turned to me. You should be grateful my son married you. Who else would marry an old and ugly woman like you? I was so frustrated with her words that I lost my temper and shouted back, How can you talk to me like this? Paul stepped in. Laura, watch your language. How dare you raise your voice at my mother? Did you hear how she spoke to me? He rolled his eyes and added, I can't handle your outbursts anymore. What? My outbursts? Do you realize how badly you and your mother are treating me? I don't want to see you anymore. I don't want any negativity in my new dream house. So just leave. What? Why? Yes, I don't want to live with someone who speaks to me like this. You've been living off my income all this time, and now you're calling me trash? You're pathetic, Laura. Let's be clear. You knew you couldn't find someone as good-looking as me, given your age and looks, so you married me. And now you shouldn't be complaining about money, Paul said. I felt my face burning with anger. Feeling deceived and furious, I yelled at him. I can't stay with such a shallow person. I want a divorce and my money back. Paul started laughing evilly. Sure, you want a divorce. Fine, but you'll have to pay me back the money if you want it. Since you want the divorce, it's on you. Paul's sinister laughter revealed a side of him I hadn't seen before. I was livid at his evil smirk. You'll have to repay the money I lent you, or I'll take legal action. Go find your stupid papers first, he sneered. Feeling numb, I left, unable to bear any more insults. They had belittled and mistreated me. I went straight to the bank where I kept the papers in the locker, only to find them missing. Checking the bank log, I discovered Paul had accessed the locker a month ago. It was a joint account, so he had access too. We'd opened it after getting married to save money, but it was mostly my earnings going in. Even the copy in my wardrobe was gone. Realizing how Paul had deceived me, I understood his interest in me at Lucy's party was because of my salary. He'd been living comfortably off my earnings in my house. Then he emotionally manipulated me into lending him money for his house and later kicked me out. And now he'd stolen the agreement so I couldn't get my money back. I'd been tricked, but thankfully, I still had the original papers. I gradually felt like Paul might betray me, so I kept the original documents safe at my parents' house and kept copies in the bank and my wardrobe. Despite all the pain and insults, I was relieved that I followed my instincts and kept the papers away from Paul's reach. I called my mom and told her everything. She was furious and wanted to sue Paul and his mother for mistreating me. She also admitted she wasn't surprised. I asked her, "Did you know about Paul's intentions?" "No, I didn't know for sure, but I had a feeling he wasn't truly in love with you." "How did you know?" "He rushed into the wedding. You hardly knew each other when he proposed and insisted on getting married." "Yeah, you're right. I should have been more cautious." "When you came home, I asked if you talked about finances with him, and you said yes." "Actually, Mom, I lied. I never talked about money with him, and I never asked about his salary. It just wasn't important to me." "Well, learn from this. Don't trust too easily." I hired a lawyer and sent divorce papers with a notice demanding repayment in 3 years. If not, the court would sell his property to pay me back. Paul and his mom had no idea what was coming. When they got the papers and notice, they tried calling me, but I ignored them and blocked their numbers. Paul even tried calling my parents, but they ignored him too. Paul left a voicemail on my office phone saying, "I'm sorry for everything, please forgive me. You know how much I love you. My mom influenced me, but I hope you'll take me back." Paul always used my emotions to manipulate me, but not this time. I deleted his message and blocked his contact. His lawyer also asked me to forgive some of the money, as Paul couldn't afford it. I ignored the request. After all the insults and attacks, I couldn't forgive them. I waited patiently for 3 years. Paul could only manage to pay half, mostly through loans because the salary was low. He had to sell the house he'd insulted me and kicked me out of, the dream house. And now, 3 years later, he has to sell his house to pay me back. It seems like things didn't go well for Paul and Megan after everything came to light. Paul moved back in with his parents and they faced a lot of backlash from the neighborhood. Megan continued to mistreat Paul and Thomas for their financial situation, even after everything. Paul's reputation took a hit at work, and he eventually left his job and moved away. Thomas also left Megan and went to live with his brother in the countryside. Megan now works as a nanny to make a living. I don't feel sorry for either Paul or Megan, as they brought this upon themselves. I'm glad to hear that Thomas will finally be able to live peacefully in his retirement years. It sounds like you're being careful this time around. You've been dating Charles for a year now. He's your colleague and 35 years old. You've known him for a while. But there were no romantic feelings before. About a year after your divorce, you started to enjoy each other's company at an office party, and things progressed from there. It's good that you're taking your time to think things through this time. It's important to be cautious after what you've been through.